Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. It's Friday night. Trying to kick in that Jack Nicholson voice here a little bit. We'll try. See what we're doing. Never rub another man's rhubarb. And let's see here. I was looking for this comic book today, and for some reason I could not find the damn thing anywhere. It was giving me like an OCD attack.
A physical one that you have, or one that you're trying to buy?
One that I needed. It's like a $5, $4 comic book that it hadn't raised up in price anywhere.
Where were you looking?
Everywhere. I even called places, and we Mark Heller even helped me use Comic Hub, and one place had it. We called them, and they didn't have it. So finally, I found it. It was Batman Superman World's Finest number 38, cover A. And I have no the hell idea why, but it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. But one dude had it on the phone, and he sold it to me for $9. I was shipping it. And I told him he would just got started with this company. Well, I guess they've had it, but they're getting it back on and stuff. So I told him for helping me. And it was the last one he had. And it's weird because you look for it. Usually you can find at least one of them, even if some jerks marked it up. And that didn't even exist. Everyone was a dead end everywhere. And the name of the place, Ye Old Comics Factory Liquidarium. If you go to Comics,
nice name.
That's a big, that's a mouthful.
Got a cool name. Maybe he'll come on and talk comics with us sometime. But George, comicsfactory.store is the website. That's comicsfactory.store. Comicsfactory.store. Check them out and give them some business. And I'm going to keep checking them out. And I found that crazy issue that was the biggest pain in the butt ever.
Now, what is there anything? Is there anything special about that issue, or
some kind of event started in it? Yesterday's war, some kind of new. There's a gorilla on the front of it, which whoever that is in Superman or something.
That's the gorilla from Flash.
Grodd.
Yeah, Grodd.
Just one of those weird, like, just I guess there wasn't enough of them or something, but it just seems
it's one of those newer ones where they do cover A, B, and C, and they make 10 of cover A, and 5,000 of cover B, and like 50,000 of cover C, and everybody wants cover A, and you can't get it because there's only a limited amount of them. So
it was crazy.
That's why.
It was crazy. Scott Pelzer's looking to see if he's got one in his store. He's been on about comics. If he does, if it's like $10, I may get it and keep it and sell it.
Have a backup.
Worth $100 one day or something.
I was thinking about my collection of amalgam comics the other day. I need to go back through my comic books to see what I'm pretty sure I had them all, but the last time I went, I didn't see them. So I kind of panicked. So I want to go back and make sure, because I had the entire amalgam thing. Like there was like 12 titles. And some titles were 4 books, some titles were 8 books, but I had the whole thing. And some books had 0 issues, and some didn't. But
I have those. They're worth about 100.
Yeah, it was a 1-year thing where Marvel and DC amalgamated. So hence the name Amalgam Comics, and they had some cool characters. I have a poster downstairs. I have yet to hang it. That is, the typical superhero. They show the whole lineup, but it's every character in both the universes. Some of them are 2 characters amalgamated. Some of them are 2 characters. And it's just one of the coolest posters ever. I need to hang it back up and get you guys a picture of it. It's fantastic.
I have those, and I think they're like 100 or more for the whole set, maybe a little more.
Something like that, yeah.
I think they just released an omnibus too, collecting those.
I think there's a graphic that has it's like one bound novel that has the whole collection in one. And I don't think it's by comic order. I think it's within it's by so you'll get different books in different order because of the way the story goes, but you'll get the whole story.
Yeah. And one thing I was going to quote, and we're going to just do this and move on to what we're about to discuss, but this is last week we had a little political incursion, and it was crazy. And this is just something that I want to bring up, and then we're going to move on. We're not getting into politics, even though it's kind of deep, but it kind of goes into the thing that we've been talking about Nazis running things. Like a lot of these people think they're still in charge, or they weren't defeated completely and they still were like in control. And there's something that's kind of weird that's happened with this administration. I'm not saying, I know a lot of people say Nazis. I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to read this quote from Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine, the guitarist. The Trump administration quoted the Nazi mass murder slogan, "One of ours, all of yours," coined when an SS officer was killed and the Nazis murdered every male resident of the village in response. If there are any MAGA left after this, you have made an irrevocable choice, whatever. But here's the thing. There's a picture of that little Noam lady, and over her podium, it says, "One of ours, all of yours." And now she's the lady on the South Park who has the alien face that comes off and crawls away and comes back and shoots dogs and stuff. But anyway, I'm just saying they really have that quote over their podium. And to me, if that's really where it came from, and this is a pretty respectable dude from Rage Against the Machine, if that's really where they're pulling it from, that's creepy.
But that's not the first time they've done that either. So
no, and they've compared every administration previous to this to Hitler. They did it to Biden, Obama.
I know, but I'm not talking. Reagan. Are you talking about, Bobby, that it's not the first time the Trump administration's done Nazi weird stuff, or do you mean like every administration?
Well, it's not the first. It's not the first time they've quoted like
Nazi stuff.
Yeah.
Well, but I've also been saying since like grades, like high school, even when I found out about Operation Paperclip, that we lost the war, and that this is technically the Fourth Reich. I've been saying that of the presidents. I've been saying that about the government, which is behind the president.
Jay loves the Trumpelcooch. I do not. But one thing I want to say, I saw this other weird thing. This Penn University just made a complaint against the Trump administration because for some reason the Trump administration contacted them for a list of all the Jewish people there. So it's just getting a little weird. I don't know exactly. It's creepy. It's like a horror movie to me. But let's move on. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. It's like there's some. I'm sorry, but something don't feel right, and we're all going to.
That's one of them AI stories.
I think we're all about to die from a nuke. But anyway, let's do this. No more politics. I do have a Facebook group called Fuhrer Shitbird von Trumpelgooch if you want to join it. That's it. Now, Bobby Nash is here. Bobby, when I first saw you, I saw that you had a library event and you were doing comic books. I love comic books. I would have went to it. And then I saw that not many people, no one showed up hardly. And that's where I was like, well, you know what? I got this show. Let's get Bobby on and we're going to make up for this crap. And
sadly, it happens. I mean, it was, I was putting on this, I do a lot of library events, and I had just told them, hey, I'll teach this class. And sometimes when you teach, there's never like a lot of people, but I usually get a few. But I think it was just that they scheduled it on a Friday.
Yeah.
It was near Athens. That was a game weekend. There was probably a lot of reasons that nobody showed up.
Yeah.
It happens.
But here's something that'll help you in the future. The next time you have one of these things, try to do two things. One, work in the word insane somewhere into your description of what's going to be going on. Trust me, it works. We have a show that we started a few months ago called The Chat on this network, and we had kind of low ratings, and then we started putting insane in the description, and our ratings like doubled. So it works. The other thing is somewhere in there, write hot librarians. Have that in there with arrows pointing at it, and that might help. Yeah.
Well, it was also aimed at children, so
but children do also have fathers and mothers. So there's a hot male or female librarian. Something for the mom, something for the kids.
We're glad you're here, and we're going to kick butt tonight. I didn't know you had anything to do with Kolchak and James and Monstrous until I saw it a few days ago, and that's awesome. And it was already awesome, the stuff you did, but I didn't know you were connected to him in that way. And I'm someone that's seen the comics he does with Kolchak and stuff, so I'm familiar. And recently they sent me that book that you actually are in. They sent me a copy of it. Tell us about it. How you hooked up? Give us some background.
I had written Kolchak. I had co-written a Kolchak story with Paul Kupperberg at Moonstone, where Kolchak teams up with the Phoenix. And so I had written Kolchak in that regard. And then when I saw that he was putting together the 50th anniversary, which is over there somewhere, the 50th anniversary hardcover, they were going to do some short stories in the back. And so I just basically reached out to James and introduced myself and said, here's who I am. This is what I've done. I've written Kolchak before. I would, if you know, I would love to do something. And he came back and says, great, here's, because it's all set during Kolchak's lifetime based on the books and the show. And so there was a nice timeline of eras that you could pick. And so I picked one that hadn't been taken yet, which was when he was a war correspondent in Vietnam. And so I wrote a story called The Devil Level, which takes place in Vietnam. Cool. And it appeared first in the hardcover collection of the 50th anniversary hardcover, along with the comics. And so now that book's long out of print, and Monstrous has decided to collect the short stories because they were only available in the pretty pricey hardcover. So he's put together this collection with the short stories that were in there. And I think there's one or two new ones that are new just to this volume. And so we're putting those out where people who didn't get the hardcover can still have access to them.
Awesome. Well, tell us about how you grew up with Kolchak. How were you first introduced to him?
I saw the show before I saw the movie. My parents weren't really big movie people, so we didn't get out as much. We didn't, there wasn't a lot of movies but I could watch TV on my own. Movies were something they kind of had to go, well, no, we got to watch that with you or whatever. And so I saw the show, and I'm just, it hit at the right time. I am a sucker for, that type of stuff. I grew up, for me, anything with, monsters or space or sci-fi, Star Trek, Batman, $6 Million Man. That was my era. And so I just thought the show was fun, and I loved it. And so it's one of those weird things. I never, like, if you'd have told me back then, hey, one day you're going to write that guy.
Yeah.
I never, who would have thought,
You're nuts. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But how did you get it? So the problem with it, and I have the DVDs upstairs, the whole Kolchak thing upstairs. Yeah. But I really wanted to try to review them before tonight's show, but like I said, before the show, I had the kidney stone problem, so I've been in and out of consciousness most of the few days hence. But we didn't get it right away. I grew up in Rockville, Maryland, just outside of Washington D.C., and WDCA Channel 20 was the independent station in Rockville. It was in Washington D.C. that we would watch. We had the Bozo Show, we had Speed Racer, Ultraman, all that kind of stuff on that channel. But late at night, like Friday night, and Thursday was like Benny Hill, but Friday was like horror night, and it was either Friday night or Saturday night. Kolchak came on at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
and pretty sure it was the only time we could get it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure mine I saw after it had been canceled. I'm pretty sure I saw them like.
Probably at 2 o'clock in the morning. But,
because it was on one of the not network channels that would play.
I think it was an ABC network thing. It was one season, and it was on at like 9 or 10 o'clock, which would back at that time frame would have been past my bedtime anyway. Yeah. But that being said, my parents wouldn't have watched that show. Star Trek, yes, but Kolchak, no. Yeah. But my brother and I used to stay up late and kind of sneak down and watch through the banister of the stairs, watch the Johnny Carson show, and then we would get in trouble when we would laugh. But we didn't. The problem with Hollywood is they do that with shows like that, and it wasn't that great of a show ratings wise, so that's why it was pulled so quickly. But there's shows that you can see in Los Angeles that don't get aired anywhere else in the nation. They last a season. Sometimes they don't even last a full season. They're canceled 3 episodes in, but you hear about it in California, you don't hear about it here. Kolchak was kind of one of those things. I think the popularity really waned immediately when it went out on TV, but I think it's more of a West Coast phenomenon than it was East Coast, and it is only just now in the last, I'd say, 30 years that it's made its presence known over here again.
Yeah, and I'm fairly certain it was like, because we had some channels that, especially during the summer when you were home from school, we had channels that would play all that kind of stuff. That would play, I'd watch Star Trek, and then I'd watch a couple episodes of Batman, and I'd watch the $6 Million Man, and then I'd go outside and play, and that kind of. So I'm pretty sure I saw them originally that way. I don't have a solid memory in my head going, I remember where I was, what I didn't know. I don't have any of that.
And it's not that specific, only that it was on, at 2:00 in the morning, and you had to stay up that late specifically to watch it.
My parents were going to let me do that. Yeah. But
maybe if you were sick, but not every Saturday. No.
And then so when I got hired to write this story, I went and they were actually streaming on NBC's on NBC.com, which is how I watched them again to kind of refamiliarize myself with how Carl talks and acts. Because in your memory, you have it one way, and that's always kind of not always right, especially, over after have so many years, 50 years. So I didn't have it in my head, the memory wise. So I rewatched the series. They didn't have the movies, but they did have the series, and I rewatched the series to kind of refamiliarize myself.
Yeah, I watched the season pilot episode, and it strikes me that I don't think he was acting. I think he was just being himself. Because when you see him talk outside of the character, outside of the show, years later, he the same cadence, the way Kolchak talks. He always talks that way. So I don't know that he acts so much as just poured himself into the role and just let it become him.
And sometimes it's with these things too. It's like, it only lasted a season, but it's one of those things that they it's weird how these things works. It's like, this thing lasted a season, got canceled, but here we are 50 years later. It's a cult thing, and we're still talking about it.
It's a Kolchak thing.
Yeah, you've got then you have other things that go for years because they're successful, and 50 years later, we're not talking about them.
MASH.
Yeah, well, I talk about MASH every day.
Well, because of the culture of it. I mean, they were on TV. They were on a TV show our entire childhood, but it's not a topic of discussion because it's a bygone war that everyone's forgotten about.
Yeah. But because it is weird because especially considering MASH is on so much now today, even
still with the reruns.
But it is weird when you do meet people that have no idea what MASH is.
Yeah,
and it's weird. I worked background on a movie several years ago that Alan Alda was in, and there were some older ladies in the who were just gawking over Alan Alda, but we had this group of young ladies who were like in their 20s, and they were like, I don't get it. Why is this guy important to you? And I realized how hard it is to explain Alan Alda to someone who doesn't know what MASH is.
Yeah, I think he was one of the few actors besides maybe Gary Berghoff that spanned the whole show. But
he's the Alan.
It was 30. Was it 30 seasons or 20-some seasons?
No, 11. Just 11. 11.
But still, that's 10 years.
That was when there were 20-something episodes a season. So
right, 27 something. Yeah, and then but also it was usually two seasons per year. So you're talking 11, 12 years. These people are in our lives.
Yeah. So they were on. They were on for 11 years. And then they had that big movie at the end. And then, it's one of those weird things where it's like, we kind of take some of these things for granted. I learned that doing as a writer, I was writing a comic script, and I put a note in for the artist that was some pop culture reference that they didn't get. And I realized I got to stop doing that because not everybody knows everything I know.
Right.
I mean, there are certain things that transcend. You could never have ever watched an episode of Star Trek and you still kind of know what Star Trek is. You could never have watched Batman, but you know what Batman is. So there's
right.
There
Yeah, it's still shocking, but it's not difficult to understand. People haven't seen everything, but
right. But yeah, there are certain things that just it's weird. But it's weird how that happens. What has that long life, even though it was considered a failure? I mean, Kolchak didn't last a season. Technically, that's a failure. Star Trek was a failure when it started.
Well, yeah. The gauge is 100 episodes. You get to the episode 100, then you become syndicatable, and then they can commercialize your show and cut the hell out of it, take about 10 minutes out of it, and then broadcast it through all the independent channels all across the nation and make lots of money.
Because that's how I discovered Star Trek. Because Star Trek was canceled before I was born, so I caught and actually this worked for MASH too. I discovered both of them in reruns after school. Like you would get home from school, and while you're having your snack and winding it before mom kicks you outside to play, Star Trek was on, and I would watch Star Trek, and then I'd go outside and play Star Trek.
And I was lucky enough that I was alive during the first 3 seasons, but I was born almost exactly 1 month after the first episode. So if I was even like 3 years old watching the last season in my crib, I don't remember it.
Right.
The only memory from that time is literally Neil Armstrong walking on the moon. That is my only memory from the age of 3. I wish Star Trek was in there, but
those were the things that I discovered after school. MASH was the same way. When I was in high school, I would come home and there were 2 episodes of MASH on, and I'd watch MASH because I had never seen them because my parents didn't watch them. So as a kid, if my parents didn't watch it, I didn't watch it. Actually, that's how I discovered several of my favorites. I think that's also how I discovered like Magnum PI and the Rockford Files and things like that, was because I caught them in reruns as I got older.
We were a TV family, so we got to do all that stuff. Yeah. My parents loved the NBC Sunday Night Mystery Movie. Come out of that, you get McCloud, you get Columbo, McMillan and Wife, whole bunch of really, really cool mystery movies. Like they were made for TV movies on every and there were like 4 or 5 titles under that banner, and every week was a different story or a different it was either McMillan and Wife or whatever. It was great.
Well, my parents weren't go to the movie people, so I remember like the ABC Sunday Night Movie was a big deal for us because that's how we saw movies for the most part. There are a few exceptions. Like as a child, I can count on one hand the number of times we went to a theater.
That sucks. We go to the theater frequently, but what was cool about it is back in so people don't realize, with all the streaming stuff we have now, most markets, most areas, even in big places, New York, Los Angeles, DC, you only had 3 or 4 or 5, 6 television stations, and very little variety. And then on Sunday night, you had the ABC movie. Usually it was a Disney movie. You had an NBC Mystery Night movie that was usually Columbo or one of those, and then CBS had their whatever they were doing. And so I remember there were some nights we were like, "What did we watch?" We only had one TV. Shocker, audience! Yeah, back in the day, people only had one television.
Yeah.
Now televisions are in every room, but you'd had to fight over whether you want to watch the Disney movie, the mystery movie, or the CBS whatever movie.
Yeah, that's how I discovered a lot of my favorite movies I've never seen in the theater because we like most of my James Bond movies.
Yeah,
that's how I saw them. Now,
absolutely on television.
In the last decade or so, I have caught a few because there are theaters now that screen older movies. But like, I didn't see like Superman, the Star Trek movies, Indiana Jones, all Die Hard, Jaws, all of those I saw on TV first. The exception was, and I don't know what made this happen, But the very first movie I saw on the big screen was a double feature at a drive-in. I was like 8 years old. We went and saw a double feature of The Jungle Book and Star Wars. And those were my first 2 big screen movies.
That's cool. That does not suck. I mean,
yes.
Star Wars is not one. It's not a bad one to initiate your first movie experience. And Jungle Book was a good animation.
Yeah,
movie.
and it was. I don't like I said. I don't know what prompted it because that's not my parents' kind of movie. You know, either one of those were not my parents' kind of movie. So I don't know what precipitated it. But we did that. I probably
rage.
Yeah, I probably begged from seeing all the commercials and whatnot. But
it
yeah,
could be, I think it's more something along the lines of the phenomenon. Really, what happened was the blockbuster era started then with Jaws. It's really Jaws really caused you got the blockbuster in because the reporters watching the lines at the time it was called Grauman's Chinese Theater. It's now called Mann's Chinese Theater. The line going into that movie theater went out of the movie theater, down the block, turned left, and went down the next block to the very next traffic light. I mean, they literally had like 1,000 people in line around this movie theater. But the phenomenon wasn't just a Star Wars fans. It was a brand new movie. Yeah. It hit everybody. I mean, the plan. This is the one movie that really wasn't advertised except for by word of mouth that everybody had to go see. So that's probably why your parents took you, is that everybody it was the go-to thing to do. My dad hated the movies. Usually he made my mother take us, but for Star Wars, because of the phenomenon, it was just like Jaws. Their lines were coming out of the theaters, 500 and 600 people waiting to get into like 2 or 3 theaters. My dad took us, and it was a 4-hour event getting in and out. That's how many people were waiting to see this one film.
Yeah, it could be. I honestly don't remember why. I remember that day pretty well, but I don't remember what precipitated it. But it was one of those full days that we didn't have very often with doing.
Yeah.
Those
I didn't argue with it because my dad was taking us. Usually, like I said, my mom was taking us to the movies, but my dad took us, so I knew it had to be a good one. And then it was, of course, but
it's not my parents' kind of thing. So they don't care for any kind of sci-fi.
That's unfortunate. My dad was a scientist, and he got into the sci-fi thing, and so like after the Star Wars movie, it was a year or so later, not much later, just 78. Battlestar Galactica came on the scene, and they did their pilot 2 ways. They did a cut down version for the TV show, but they did a PG version in Sensurround to gather their audience. And my father took us again to see that movie. And in this movie, I got to turn my camera on for this one. I'm smoking a cigarette, that's why I have it off. We went to, it's now called the Bethesda Cinema and Draft House. God bless them. They serve alcohol and good food now. But they had seats that they would rock, and they were mechanically controlled by the movie upstairs in the theater booth or in the projection booth. And so whenever in a Battlestar, when they would launch their fighters, they would launch out of those tubes out of the side of the ship, and the pilots would go, and then they would show the tube. Well, the seats, the whole thing went and jerked you back when that happened. And then while they were flying, and the same thing, we saw Star Wars the second time in Sensurround, like a year after this. But because the seats were mechanically controlled during the dogfight scenes, the seats are doing this number, and we're watching Battlestar Galactica like this. The seats are rocking like we're inside with Starbuck in them. And my father is 6'2" with a really bad back, so he walked out of there with a crick in his back, and my brother and I walked out of there with our eyes like this. We were like, "Holy shit! Can we do that again, Dad? Please!" It was the coolest movie I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I did. Now I didn't see that in the theater. My parents did let me watch that. I remember it was
I think that experience really hooked my dad. He still hated the theater, but he took us more often after those couple experiences.
Yeah. Now, like I said, I could remember it. Yeah, I could probably count them on one hand. But and so the year I graduated from high school, that was right around that time's about when I was like, you know what? I'm going to the movies. I started doing movies, and so I started seeing, and so some of my favorite movies to this day, you know, it either took me many years. Like Jaws is probably one of my favorite movies, and I didn't see it in the theater till maybe about 10 years ago.
Oh wow,
The first time.
It's so good in the theater.
Yeah, and I'll watch it in the theater any chance I can get. But you know, things like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Die Hard and Alien and stuff like that, I have been able. Wrath of Khan, I have been able to see.
Here's one that you got to see if you get a chance to see it in a retro theater, but it has to have sense around speakers. So we saw 48 Hours, Eddie Murphy, Nick Nolte, and the movie had the new sense around speakers. You know, the seats weren't mechanically controlled for this movie, but the opening sequence where the Indian comes and rescues the bad guy from the chain gang, and there's a big gunfight and all these ricochets and bullets flying everywhere. The sound effects department, I swear to God, I was sitting in. I have to turn my camera on again for this one. I was sitting in my seat about mid theater, you know. So there's 2 speakers in front of me, nothing next to me, and then 2 speakers behind me. So there's 4 speakers on both walls, 8 speakers altogether. The total, probably more like 12 in the theater, but I was near 8 of them. But you could literally hear the bullets go, and like it sounded like they were literally whizzing around behind you. It was that good. The sounds were that close. It was so cool.
Yeah, I'm curious. What is the Dolphin Show?
Oh my God, I was hoping you wouldn't ask that. It was when we first started out a long time ago. Something bad happened. A guest came on who had a book about him doing LSD and a love affair with a dolphin.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And
that.
He's been on.
Oh, so it's you mean okay? So it's the Dolphin episode of your show.
Yeah.
I was trying because I was thinking, wait, is he talking about Flipper? Is he talking about Sequest?
Yeah, I could be that. I was on that show, Bobby.
About 20 years ago. And the guy's talking about it, and I'm laughing like, was there pillow talk? You know, I'm being funny, and I thought it was gross or whatever, but I was being comedic. I'd seen too much Howard Stern back in the day. I don't really listen to him anymore, but that was kind of like an influence. So I was being silly with it. And then suddenly this dude, who I didn't really know, starts talking about doing it with his dog. So all the lights come on and people threatening to do whatever, so we had to shut him off, and I think someone called the police. Like a listener. And this guy it's weird, his name's Malcolm Brenner. He's on Amazon, and he writes some weird books, and he has a page, but he was on his blog like just cussing us out, like attacking us, and it was sick. So hopefully I was hoping I was hoping the plague got him, but I think he's still alive.
There are some interesting books out there.
Yeah,
and I knew that person,
true.
A similar person had been on Howard Stern about the same thing, and I thought for some reason it was him. Maybe it was, but I don't know for sure. Yeah. But anyway, it's just gross.
I promise you, I have no stories like that. So,
thank God.
For some reason, Mark is obsessed with that show, and it worries me. He knows, he makes us laugh.
Maybe Mark is just the pen name for that guy, and
he's just being silly.
So, but when I saw the thing, I was like, wait, is he talking about Flipper?
Yeah.
Is he talking about? Because I was starting to think of shows with dolphins in them, and it was either Flipper or
a true
Sequest.
Story about LSD and a dolphin.
Yeah,
and it was a true story. But let's get back to the subject matter, please, God.
Kolchak.
Kolchak, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of your favorite creatures on there? Like the creatures. What are some of the favorites?
Oh, God. I do remember. I loved the vampire. I thought the vampire was really good. I thought the guy they got to play the vampire had that look to where he could be menacing without saying anything. I think I actually preferred him when he wasn't talking. But now that you've asked, I'm going to blank on all of them. But because it's been a while since I watched it.
I saw the one with the African American zombie dude, and then hung him. I was like, this is pretty controversial. Like, we were rewatching, me and Christina, the episodes. I was like, I saw that. I was like, I was wincing a little bit on that one. Like a black zombie dude running around.
Yeah, and for the era, I mean, the era they made the show, you know, it was kind of in the era of the blaxploitation films. So so I figured that was their inspiration. Yeah. And of course, it's pretty widely known that the guy that created the X-Files said that Kolchak was kind of his inspiration for the X-Files. And but yeah, it's fun. It's one of those things too. Sometimes I think the more important thing was not always the monster, it was how Carl dealt with it. Like, if you would have dropped any other character into that show, it wouldn't have worked. It's that Kolchak really, he sold the show. I believed it because I believed him. And I think that really was what kept me coming back. As cool as the monsters and stuff were, watching Carl do what he does was the thing that made me just go, I love this show. I could come back and watch him. I could watch him solve a regular crime without a monster.
It was his sass attitude. He had an attitude, like name people. That was new, kind of.
Well, he was the outsider too. I mean, he appealed to every audience. He was the outsider. Every time he had a story to do, he was, the editor. I forget the actor's name. He was in a lot of. He's a great character.
Darren
A lot of people. Well, Derek. No, his editor, the guy, his boss.
Oh, yeah. I forget the actor's name, but it's Tony was the character.
Right, but yeah, that actor is in a lot of other TV shows. Mm-hmm. Usually, he's the boss character. But that was his foil. Is that guy was always giving him crap about you can't do this, so he had to push through, the restrictions that the bosses give him to get his job done, and that's what I think appealed to a lot of people. Is he didn't say no. He found a way to make no a yes.
Well, Darren McGavin also had that. What I refer to is this acting, an acting ability to do to really sell the hell no factor. That I can't believe I'm having to deal with this, and he could do it without saying it. He had that way of responding to the crap, this again. Mm-hmm. I found it appealing to watch. And he was funny. He was funny because of that. I think he was a great actor. I mean, I've enjoyed almost everything I've ever seen the man in, to be honest with you. And he's been in a lot. Yeah, and he, and like so many actors, he's got that. He kind of has the two things he's most known for. Obviously, most people know him from The Christmas Story, because that's an every year thing.
I watch it every year, like the whole all day Christmas Eve.
but he's also rather known as Kolchak. There's a, not as widely known, but there is a large subset of Kolchak fans. Because I'm going to tell you, when this 50th anniversary book came out a few years ago, I had them at shows, and people were just coming up and buying them. I mean, oh my God, it was like, I've been waiting, for some more of this. And so there's still new Kolchak stuff coming. I know Monstrous is doing new stuff as well. And before them, Moonstone was still putting out new stuff.
Does somebody own the rights to the Kolchak?
Yeah, the Jeff Rice family still owns it. If I recall correctly.
So they're licensing it out to people.
Yeah. Okay. It's not like a public.
That's good. It's still active.
There was Kolchak and like Classic Monsters. I think that was the name of it, the Monsters. And then I would just want to say, James is Monstrous. They're killing it lately. Yep. They got some really great things. They have a Creep Show graphic novel coming out that's on Amazon right now. And I have those from Image and the old one with Stephen King, from the movie. It's a graphic novel. Yeah. And then they're doing Weird Tales, a graphic novel. So
they're working with Weird Tales. Yeah. I did not get to work on the Creep Show thing, but I do have a Creep Show connection. Cool. I acted in a couple of Creep Show episodes of the new TV show.
Really?
Yeah.
You did?
I did. I was in the first one I was in was called Skinwalkers. And it was written by Paul Dini, who worked on Batman the Animated Series, writes a lot of comics. And it's the one where Dana Gould is in it. And they've discovered these leeches that eat
Eclipse worms, Eclipse diet worms.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the episode, he is watching the thing about the procedure, and he goes over and sits down on the couch next to me, and I am the first person we see in the episode to get the procedure. I'm Mr. Simons. They come out, Mr. Simmons. They come out, get me. I talk to him for a minute. I go in the room, and then he does some more stuff, and then I go in and trade glass because they made me and the other guy up to look alike. So he was supposed to, if I recall correctly, he was supposed to have a beard, and they were going to make his hair my color. And we get there, and he had no beard. So we shaved mine, and they dyed my hair to match his. And so they put us in similar clothes. And so I go in. The only thing they didn't have glasses that looked like mine. And I was like, well, I can do it without it. And they're like, well, we kind of like the glasses. So so when I went in, I gave him my glasses. And then I was blind for like the next half hour. So I go in, do the thing, and then he comes out, and then Dana Gould kind of get the double take. It's like, wait, that's the, that's all you see me. I'm just in the one scene, but that was fun.
You keep surprising me with weird stuff. You're like the man of many faces.
I also,
Creep Show. What else is in?
I also did. They were getting ready to do the new season. It ended up being the Christmas special, the one with all the Santas, the Santa warriors attacking the were creatures. That wasn't supposed to be a special. That was just going to be another episode. And the season was going to start filming on Monday, but they called us in on Thursday because we're filming outside. They made the outside of the studio up to look, and it's warm. It was like 90 something degrees, but it looks like it's snow and ice, and we're the Santas, and we are coming, and we are rushing the building, and we are breaking down the door, and we're swinging weapons, and we're breaking into the building. And then we're going to come back on Monday and film the inside of the stuff. I was going to fight like a were creature. It's going to be so awesome. So we're there all day on this Thursday, so I got to see the creep and all that stuff and check the set, and then we filmed at night. And then, so we leave on Thursday. Well, it's Friday morning when I leave, and we're supposed to be back on Monday. And I've grown my beard out, and I'd grown it out for something else, and I still had. I was so ready for like a big, ugly white. I was ready for it to be gone, but I was like, yeah, this is cool. I can play Santa. So we go home. I go home on Friday morning. We're supposed to come back on Monday. On Friday evening or Saturday morning, I forget which day it was, the COVID lockdown happened, and we went into quarantine, and they didn't film the rest of it for like 6 months. But I kept the beard because I knew we were going to go back eventually. And then the day that they decided to go back, it's like, to be safe, we're just going to let stuntmen do all that. So you guys are done. So I never got to fight my were creature. But yeah, so I'm in it, but like you only see me on the video monitor, so you can't pick me out.
Did they cancel Creep Show? It seems like they did. They canceled it.
It's been a couple years since they've done a season, so it's possible.
So I look every year, and I'm like,
yeah, but it was fun. The 2 episodes I was on, I got to tour the sets, and it was very cool. I had a blast doing it. Dana Gould was awesome. The director was great. I got to meet Greg Nicotero. He was really nice. Cool. They did carry over, like in the first Creep Show movies, the 2 original movies, there's that dish that's in both movies, that's in several stories. That dish does appear in the episode with the Skinwalkers. They brought it in. It was like, you would think it was made out of gold. Like it's brought in under lock and key and kind of placed. Like Greg Nicotero was the only one that could touch it, and he was placing it. And then he's explaining to people what it is for those that don't know, and how important it is to the Creep Show mythos, et cetera, et cetera. So all that was cool. So that was fun. I got to do that, and that was a blast. I do that from time to time, the background stuff or small roles, just one day things, and those are fun. It gets me out of the house.
Yeah, that's cool though. That's so cool.
Keep you out of trouble, yo.
Yeah,
we had a funny thing happen. I don't know if you've ever heard of Ernie Altbacker. He does a lot of writing for DC Comics movies and stuff, like cartoons and Batman and stuff, like Hush, the cartoon movies.
It's not familiar, but yeah.
He was on about his comic book on Kickstarter, Area 51 Studios. It's like a funny alien comic. But anyway, I had no clue he wrote all that stuff until I was just like happened to look at IMDb when I was interviewing him. And I'm talking about the list is like a mile long of all these like DC that my nephew in the room has every one of them. And this dude like wrote every one of them and I didn't even know it. Like an airhead.
Yeah,
then I started asking questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of writers that there's a lot of creators, not just writers, that do all kinds of stuff. It's like I have friends. It's like I have a friend who's a musician, and I knew some of what she did. And then we were talking one evening. We were at a con. We'd all gone out to dinner, and she was talking about working on these things. And it's like, I didn't know you did that. And she says, I don't really. It's like they don't put our names on it. It's just, but I'm writing songs for this show and that show, and that plays over like the montages at the end. And I was like, oh, and it's like I had no idea. But yeah, there's a lot of people that do stuff like that don't get credit. Because I do work for corporate. I've done stuff for government agencies. I've done stuff for corporations that are not seen, they're not like ever going to be in a comic shop or anything like that, or a bookstore, but they have nice print runs because they're either giving them away because it's, like you do a comic book that talks about the programs this agency offers. And so they give them away to people so they know the programs. And so I do a lot of stuff like, it's kind of died down a little in this year, and in this year. But I would like to, those are fun, and it's usually that but you're not seen outside of those local or that venue. You're not going to find those in the comic shop or the things like that, or stuff for. I did some books for kids from an educational publisher, and they're in libraries and schools all over the place, but they're not in comic shops, that kind of thing. So you're building an audience elsewhere. So
what was your first book, and give us a little background on your first like adventure as writing? What was your first book, and it take a lot to get the book done? Like years and years. It did me, and then I wrote some, and now I haven't wrote another one in 10 years.
Well, I did some of the like fanzine type stuff as a kid, where you print it yourself and staple it together yourself, and
I was going to bring that up. Yeah,
that's more hobby stuff, but you learn. But my first like professional-ish, I knew some guys who were wanting to start a comic company, and I wrote and drew some stuff for them. And so the first book that came out was, what was it called? It was called the company was called Classic Hippie Comics. And I worked on CHC Presents #1, and it was like sci-fi and horror short stories. And so I did a thing for that. I didn't really get paid anything for that, so I don't know if it counts as professional. The first thing I ever got paid for was we met this guy who had a local cable access TV show where he was a spaceman. On a spaceship, and his sidekick was a puppet, and they played kids videos, and that was his show. And they had little learning, teachable moments. It was called Roger Rocket Adventures, and I met him at a comic shop. They had thrown together an artist social at one of the comic shops, and I met him there, and we got to talking, and he wanted to do a comic based on the origin story of his character from the show. And so I wrote it. I got a couple artist friends of mine that did the art. So technically that's my first I got paid thing, although there's maybe 5 words that I wrote that are still in the book when it came out. He rewrote like 99.9% of it. But technically, I guess that was my first. And that would have been 1992. 2, I guess. Yeah. And also in 1992, that was the year I started doing comic strips for a kids magazine. I wrote and drew comic strips for this monthly kids magazine that ran for 12 years. So those were good. There wasn't a lot of money in all that, but it was experience and getting the work out. And then in 2000, I got hired to work on a book that already existed called Demon Slayer. And the writer was leaving. And so I took over as writer. And so that was probably my first like big publisher, real publisher in comic shops, et cetera, et cetera. And so I did that, and that ran for about 4 years. So those were my first comics. My first novel I sold in 2004, and it came out in 2005. And that was Evil Ways. I don't know if you guys can see the poster over there. That was Evil Ways. And that was my first novel. And that, more than anything else, that novel opened the door to the other stuff. Publishers started, because of that book, publishers started contacting me going, hey, would you like to work on this? And so that's kind of where it started. So in the 2000s to 2005 era is kind of when the professional work kind of started. That was a long answer to that question. Sorry.
It's fine. Well, what are some of the comic books you grew up with? And is there anything now that you keep up with comic wise?
The very first comics that I owned, these probably weren't the first I read, but the first I owned. So these are the ones I remember. I was a big Spider-Man fan. I knew the reruns of the 60s show would play after school, sometimes. And so I would watch, I knew Spider-Man from that. And so my mother and I were in a department store, and in the checkout aisle, they had the 3-packs, where you can see 2 of them. You don't know what's in the middle, but there's 3 packs of comics. And this one had 2 Spider-Man issues in it. I didn't even know they made Spider-Man comics. And I begged and pleaded, and I think my mother just bought them so I would shut the hell up. Because she wasn't a comic fan. I think it's like, fine, I'll get them if you'll stop talking. And inside that 3-pack were 3 consecutive issues of Spider-Man. It was Amazing Spider-Man issues 192, 193, and 194. I still have them. I fell in love with comics reading them. I read them till they almost fell apart. The first one, the 192 has Spider-Man and J. Jonah Jameson are shackled to a bomb and are running through the city trying to find a way to defuse the bomb. And so, yeah, Spider-Man's like got J. Jonah Jameson like shoved over his shoulder, leaping from building to building, trying to get somewhere where they can defuse this bomb.
I think I remember that episode. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the 193 had the Fly, and then 194 was the first appearance of the Black Cat. So I was just enamored of those books. So those were my first. And then I picked up a few here and there. Like I said, my parents weren't comic people, but I picked up some here and there. And then today, I still read. I am in the middle of reading Batman and Robin Year One with Mark Waid and Chris Samney. And that has been a lot of fun. That definitely has that Batman the Animated Series feel. Chris Samney's art really fits that mold. What else am I reading? I'm enjoying Gail Simone's X-Men. I read the Fantastic Four. I'm a big Fantastic Four fan, so I've been following that book for years.
The Ryan North one,
he's doing the current ones,
and they just rebooted it after One World Under Doom.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm reading them in trade, so
oh, okay.
So I'm a little behind. Yeah, so because I'm just picking up trades. Anything by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, Criminal, and their various side projects, Reckless and all, anything they put out, I'll buy and read. Those are fantastic crime thriller type books. I love those. What else? I am reading older stuff. I did pick up the first two G.I. Joe omnibuses by Larry Hama. I had never read. I'd read G.I. Joe sporadically. So this is my first time reading straight through them. And I'm almost through with volume 2, and those are really good. I was very impressed with those.
I have those. Those are good.
Yeah, so because I was a G.I. Joe fan from the cartoon, and the book is not the cartoon. They are very different animals. And so as a kid, I think I enjoyed the cartoon more, so I kind of started and then stopped reading the comics. So going back and looking at them older, I think I appreciate the comics more.
There's a crazy crossover thing happening now with Image, Skybound with G.I. Joe and Transformers with Kirkman and Williamson, and they're really good.
I haven't read any of those yet. Yeah,
their own omnibuses now. So but basically it's Hasbro. I guess the company's involved, and it's Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Void Rivals. And it's just like they're all in the same universe.
Yeah. Hasbro's been trying to get that going for a while. I know they tried it IDW, and it kind of worked, but it didn't quite come together as well. But yeah. But and Hasbro's always been kind of, as I understand it, pretty involved. I remember meeting one of the G.I. Joe writers and was talking to him about the cartoon, and I was like, one thing that's always bugged me. Why is this story that's set in the jungle got the guy in the Arctic gear in it, but then next week's episode, which is in the Arctic, has the jungle guy? And he's like, Hasbro told us who we could use each week. And so whether they fit the story or not, that's who we had to use because that's who Hasbro was pushing toys that week.
That's kind of the bane of Hollywood for writing for episodic television. Maybe not so much for a cartoon, but you hear horror stories, particularly in the soap opera genres. Every month or every week or whatever, they'd say, "All right, you have to use in your story, you have to use only these 3 sets and these 15 characters. Go." And then,
we're not gonna. Yeah, we don't have access to this actor. Because they're doing a movie, so we've only got them for
doing other stuff somewhere else.
Yeah. And then comics are the same way. I mean, you'll be working on comics, and it's like, oh, we got a crossover coming up. You need to stop your story and work the crossover in. Yeah, that kind of stuff happens, but that's just part of the business of doing corporate work. You realize you don't own those characters.
Yeah, and you're right about the Hasbro thing. I mean, they started early. I mean, I remember. I don't remember what year it was. It had to have been at least 83 because I was driving and I had my own car. I had my MGB, but I was driving into Bethesda, and I forget for what. But while I was going, I figured I'd stop at the KB toy store and check out what was new on the shelves. And there was this. It wasn't Transformers yet. I forget what they were calling them then, but it was the Takara version before Hasbro really got involved in it. And I think it was the Sunstreaker car in red. Transformers, the first Transformer I ever bought, and somehow I saw that, and then at the same time Hasbro saw that, and it merged, and they made a brand out of it. The idea of the cartoon was strictly to sell the toys.
Oh yeah, because that was right.
A half-hour commercial. That's all that they were. Because every single one of the Transformers, every single one of the G.I. Joe shows, it was to sell those little vinyl figures and them little plastic cars.
Because that was in the era right after Ronald Reagan had deregulated that. Because before that, you couldn't do cartoons to sell toys, and he deregulated that law, that whatever that law was called, and so there was a brilliant, the marketing strategy in the 80s for that was you had a cartoon, you had toys, and you had comics. And the three of them kind of helped promote each other.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So if you like the cartoon, you'll buy the toy because we're making the toy look good. I
found if you bought the toy first, you're also hooked in. I mean, the toys were just cool.
They were all promoting the other. So if you bought He-Man, there were comics in the toy that made you want to go pick up but then watch the cartoon and and so but yeah, He-Man and G.I. Joe and Transformers, and we could probably name off 100. They were all basically, they were there to sell toys. And if the toy line did, and that's kind of like Thundercats kind of had the spinoff Silverhawks, and Silverhawks Silverhawks didn't last, and it wasn't.
No, they both lasted about 2 seasons each.
But Silverhawks was a little less than than Thundercats, I think. But
it might have been.
But the way it worked out, because I recently watched the thing on it. The way they did it was, by the time the Silverhawks cartoon was finished airing and they decided not to make anymore, the toys weren't on the shelf yet. So by the time the toys came out, nobody cared because there was no cartoon.
It was gone, yeah.
And so they nobody's buying the toys. We're not going to do any more cartoons. It's a weird, and that still kind of happens today. It's been a few years now, but I remember Cartoon Network did this Green Lantern cartoon that was kind of a CG animated Green Lantern cartoon.
Yeah,
it was really good, but it only lasted 1 season because the toy line tanked, and with no toys, there was no reason to keep the cartoon on. And so that's kind of sad that they're that tied together. But so I mean, I guess on the one hand, I guess it's kind of a good thing my stuff's not tied to stuff like that. But on the other hand, if it was tied to stuff like that, my stuff might sell better. So but I have worked on stuff that has that stuff, but the stuff I work on is not completely tied to it. Like I have worked on Green Hornet, and there are Green Hornet toys.
Yes,
they're not based on my book, but there are things out there. I got to write Zorro. There are Zorro like pop figures, because I bought like a Zorro pop figure over here on my desk, and if you guys can see, I have Zorro and Green Hornet pop figures. So I figured I wrote the guys. I should have a toy.
Funko Pops, yeah. I got a couple back here. Indiana Jones, Jam Master Jay. That was one of my nicknames in college, and Charlie Brown.
Yeah. So I have a few for characters that I wrote, and I don't know if you can see it way back there. I have a Domino Lady doll, which my publisher gave to me because I have written more Domino Lady than anybody, which is pretty cool. And she's an old character from the 30s. So they as a bonus they gifted me one of the dolls because I certainly couldn't have afforded her. But so stuff like that's pretty cool. You've got the little, and I have little posters here, for when I do podcasts and whatnot, and of book covers and things like that. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I've had artists do sketches of characters that are mine, things like that, or just
that's cool
little things. Yeah.
What is your we have a couple of your other books listed, Snow Island and Dante's Rebirth, if you want to tell us a little bit about each one of those. We have them in the title, so
those are new releases in both of those series. Snow, there's a poster over there. Snow is an action thriller series. I call it my love letter to TV and book detectives and cops of the 60s and 70s and 80s. There's a lot of Jim Rockford or Magnum PI kind of feel to the characters and the stories. It's that thing where character is sometimes more important than the problem they're solving. And so Snow Island is the 8th book in the series. And it just came out in November of last year. And it follows Snow. And again, because I've said it's my love letter to the 70s and 80s shows. This one has a thing that's the most like that, because not only does he go to Hawaii, which every detective did in the 70s and 80s, it's also a backdoor pilot, because there's another character that kind of runs the story because something happens to Snow and they're trying to help him. And so it's kind of like it plays as kind of that double bonus thing. But the Snow books are very action heavy thrillers. there's gun chases and action and car fights or gun fights and hand to hand and car chases and that kind of stuff. And so those are fun. Hey, Charles. I don't know if you guys know Charles Millhouse, excellent writer.
Do not? We do now. How you doing, Charles?
Who also wrote, there are 3 volumes of Snow Shorts, which I had other writer friends of mine write snow stories. And Charles wrote one of those. Charles also does a great book called Captain Hawkland, which I have also been fortunate to write, which kind of worked out. Yeah. We teamed up we both had pilot characters in that World War II era. And so we teamed our 2 pilot characters up. And so that was fun. We've done a couple stories with that. Which
you said pilot and captain in that same sentence there.
Yeah.
Doesn't relate, doesn't correlate. It's way off tangent. But my dungeon master friend Ross in college, one of his bad guys that we had to fight was a pirate named Captain Stern Panties.
So,
sorry,
that's okay. No, yeah, but yeah, so we've done that, and then but snow is very much an action heavy, fun, character driven, just action adventure stuff. And so this Snow Island is book 8 this year, and every 3 books they're novellas. Every 3 novellas I collect, so there's collections. Book 9 will come out later this year, and then that'll give us our 3rd collection of the novella series, and the Snow Shorts are collected. Then we're going to take a little hiatus after book 9, work on a few other things, and then come back. And then the Dante series is a supernatural Western.
Cool.
Imagine if Deadwood, I think we talked about Deadwood a little before we went on air. Imagine if the TV show Deadwood had supernatural elements in the town. And so it's weird. I just turned in book 5. Book 5 will be out this Halloween. So it's in edits now. When I started this, it was not intended to be a series. I wrote a short story for an anthology for Valhalla Books, who's the publisher. They were doing an anthology called The Devil's Due. And the concept of the anthology was write a story where deals with the devil always come with a price. That was the conceit. And it didn't have to be supernatural. It could be like human devils, but dealing with that. And so I always, when I work on an anthology, my first thought is, what can I do that's going to be different than anything anybody else is going to pitch? So I wrote a short story that took place in this tiny town called Dante. And there's monstrous stuff and supernatural things going on, blah, blah, blah. I told the story, sent it to the publisher. The publisher liked it. Great, book comes out. Awesome. I get a call from the publisher one day. It goes, so what happens next? And I'm like, I don't know. You asked for a short story. I wrote a short story.
You didn't ask for a continuing story.
You stop thinking about it at that point. And he goes, no. We've been talking. We see series potential here. And I'm like, oh crap. Okay. Let me see what happens next. And so
that's rare in the book world, is it not?
Yes.
They're coming to you from a short story to get a series going.
Yeah. It's a first for me. And so I wrote some others, and we put that short story and 2 others in the first book to kind of set up the world. And then I did books 2 and 3. And so in my head, I'm thinking, trilogy, great. We'll do 3 and it's over. So I wrapped the story up at the end of book 3, like totally.
Everybody's dead. End of story, right?
It comes to a dead stop. And he goes, great. What happens in book 4? I'm like, okay. So book 4 starts like a new story, and so I just turned in 5. Book 6 will be next year. We've already talked that. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to collect 3 into one big, and then we'll see how 6 goes. But I'm not going to end it at 6.
Yeah, leave it open this time. And
yeah.
Like, hey,
I'll leave it open. I'll leave it open. Then they'll cancel the book. Yeah, but
yeah, that's when they say, "Why didn't you kill him?"
Yeah. So, but it's the gift that keeps on giving, because there was no plan. like when I went into Snow, I knew it was going to be a series. When I went into a lot of other things, I knew they were going to be series, or the plan was.
You're basically going into it with a different mindset. If you're thinking, oh, it's a short story, boom, why am I thinking what's going to happen next? It's a short story. It's over.
Yeah, and I didn't go as deep into character.
Yeah, right.
I knew who they were, but I didn't go deep into backstories. I didn't, there's things I would have done differently to set up the town for continued usage, which I did in book 4.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a cafe called Inferno.
Yeah, well, actually no, but I may have to work that in. But yeah,
well, there is now.
Yeah, and so it's one of those things. It's like I said, it's just a gift that keeps on giving, and the publisher's happy. The people who have read it seem to be happy. I haven't really had any complaints, which is nice. It's a fun kind of world to play. There's horror elements, but it's really more of a supernatural thing. But it has horror elements, and so we've got the humans and the monsters and just all kinds of stuff going on, and I'm having a blast with it. Yeah,
but that's the good thing about the paranormal subject matter is you can go from science fiction to fantasy to horror. You can pretty much find just about any kind of monster or creature story from legend that you can spin into a horror or science fiction or fantasy or any kind of novel or short story.
And in this 5th book, half the book is just dealing with a train robbery. So I mean, you can kind of play with different type. It doesn't have to always be all supernatural all the time. You can kind of juggle it, and that's the beauty of that world. And so that's been fun. And I know the publisher has some other plans. We've talked about some things to do. There's been talk of a few other things to do around the main series, so we'll see how those shake out. But it's been fun. I'm having fun doing it. Valhalla Books has been wonderful to work with. Jeffrey Hayes does our covers. He's fantastic. So those are a lot of fun. And I do a Snow, a Dante's, and a Sheriff Myers mystery. I at least do one novella of each of those a year.
That's cool.
Yeah. Some of my other stuff is, gets worked in and around stuff, but because the Evil Ways stuff or Deadly Games and stuff, those are novels. Those are not novellas, so they take longer. So I don't do one of those every year. But the novellas, and also as a small press, having the novellas means I can put them out a little more often, keep them in front of people. They're cheaper, which makes people who've never heard of me want to try to read them because they're not as expensive to try. So those have worked pretty well in that novella format.
Hey, what's some of your Weird West influences? That's something I like to get into sometimes. We've had Joe R. Lansdale on here talking about Weird West, but what are some things, maybe movies or comics or anything Weird West? I know Twilight Zone actually has a lot of kind of Weird West. Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was a huge fan of the Wild Wild West, which was that kind of steampunky, and I didn't know what the word steampunk was, but it was kind of
it wasn't a movement back then.
It was like a weird Western. There were these things going on, that was just, there was a little sci-fi bent to it, and I really loved that. I grew up with the Lone Ranger, another character I got to write, which was awesome. That's awesome. I grew up with the Lone Ranger, which was not weird, but it was cool. And then there were some cartoons that
did we also talk briefly about the Green Hornet? He's tied in with
in the original he's his nephew, and then by the time you get to the TV show, because he's his grandson
or grandniece or grandnephew or something like that.
It's either great grandson or grandson or something like that. So because they're owned by the same people, they were created by the same people. They have the same last name. But I also, in the 80s, there was kind of I remember there was a cartoon called Brave Star, which was like a Western on another planet. There was stuff like that, seeing those, Filmation was doing Zorro and Lone Ranger cartoons.
I remember those too.
That were kind of weird, had weirdness going on in them, and you know, I mean, Star Trek, if for all the sci-fi elements to it, is like a Western. It follows the Western format. So those kind of things all, you know, I love the idea of riding into some place that's this big mystery, you know, that you could play that, whether it's going to a planet or riding out into the territories to a place where you've never been before, and to your knowledge, no one you ever met's been. So you don't know what's there. And as a creator, that gives you places to play with stuff. You know, there's a great quote about Edgar Rice Burroughs that said, you know, because Tarzan was set in Africa, and someone had said that it's great. You can tell this is Africa written by someone who's never been there. But because at that time, and got to remember, the world was a very bigger place then.
And ignorant. They had no idea.
It's not like now where I can talk to people around the world from my bedroom here, from my office.
Right.
No problem. Back then, you didn't know, you know, you didn't know. And so you would buy all these hidden lands deep in Africa where these things were going on that Tarzan had to deal with.
Tribes of mad, you know, cannibalistic tribes running around eating white people. Yeah, I mean, those were the stories going around in the 50s.
Yeah, there was and so, but you could buy that adventuresome journey into the unknown, exploring, and I love that about Westerns, that you could do that. That, you know, even if you just an hour outside of the little boom town, you know, who knows what's out there, you know. It's a land that is trying to kill you. That if you go out, if you're going west, young man, that area is trying to actively kill you, and trying to, you know. So I dug those as a kid. Then I kind of got out of Westerns for a bit, and then as I got a little older, you know, Tombstone came out around the year I graduated from high school, and that stuff, that was kind of awesome. And we kind of got back into it. Then it kind of goes away. Then we got into like Deadwood, like we talked about earlier, or Hell on Wheels, and these more recent Westerns, which were really cool. And so, yeah, I love the genre. I love the idea of the simplicity of life. There's a lot of stories that you can tell in certain eras that you can't tell in others. And like talking about the 70s and 80s with the snow books, if you look at shows in the 70s and 80s, you could have a plot that's like Thomas Magnum has discovered that there's going to be an assassination attempt on the other side of the island. And the episode is him getting to the other side of the island in time.
Yeah.
I have a cell phone now. That problem goes away.
The problem is solved. Yeah.
Right. That problem doesn't exist anymore. Now, to tell that story, I have to tell that story in a different way. The story isn't just.
You can still tell it, but there has to be a cell phone blockage. Or
there's got to be, yes. And you can only, your audience will only buy no service so long.
Yeah.
You know, like that was a big X-Files thing. They were always in a place with no service. After a while, you're just like, seriously?
It's better to do the thing like with Ultraman. You know, after a while, they got kind of bored of him taking his beta capsule out and turning into Ultraman. He would always drop it somewhere and have to like. There's the one classic one where he's like he drops it outside of a building and it's on a ledge like 5 stories down, so he has to jump out the window, catch it on the way down, and ignite it, or he dies again.
Right. Yeah, and so you have
stuff like that, but they didn't. You know.
Yeah, and so it helps you with your. You have to be more creative. Because, like I said, certain things just, you know, because even if I can't get a cell phone, like a call signal, I can text somebody. Yes. No one is out of contact anymore.
You'd have to be Thomas Magnum driving his Ferrari, and then all of a sudden he gets the cell phone to call. Hey, there's going to be
yeah.
Well, you know, and smatters all over the ground.
But even that now, most people's phones are in a little thing, and you just go, "Hey Siri, call," and you never even have to touch it. So and I'm not saying those things are bad. Those things make us as creators
it ruins plot devices. Yeah.
Right. Well, it makes us have to do something different, have to come up with a different problem, a different solution. Yeah. And so, but doing stuff set in the past, it is sometimes like when I do Domino Lady, she's set in the 30s. I don't have to worry about cell phones.
Right. Yeah. If you have to do it, I have to get there on time thing. You don't have to worry about the cell phone problem.
But then there are occasions where you go like, oh, it is pretty cool. I can do the snow thing, and he can whip out a cell phone, and that gets me past this problem and into the meat of the story. So, but it's all things you just have to work in. You know, I'm sure in the 60s and 70s there were writers bitching like I am right now about these payphones. These payphones are killing my story. I have, you know.
Well, it's funny you say that because they did mention that in the first Superman movie. Mm-hmm. You know, in the original TV show, George Reeves would usually change in a full-size boxed.
Yep.
If it wasn't the broom closet in the newspaper building, he was on the street. He'd go into a full-size, you know, close himself in. But then there's the one with Christopher Reeve. He's desperately trying to change into Superman. He runs up to a public phone. He goes, and it's one of those. It's just a half one.
Just a half one. Yep.
He's like, damn it! So he runs and he goes to a revolving door and spins around really quick, spits some old lady out real fast, and then comes out. And then you know, some pimp goes, "Whoa, dude, that's a hot outfit," or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. So you have to learn how to work with technology. Technology's it's not the enemy, but it has, you know, technology has made it so certain things like we can't. Sorry, the security camera it's too grainy to see. Mm-hmm. You know, we can pick up pieces of paper from space.
Yeah. We can read the newspaper from outer space.
Those kind of things you have to find ways around it. You have to make your criminals smarter. I know there's going to be a camera. How do I deal with that? Because we live in an age where everybody's got a camera.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
So you just take that into account, because sure enough, if you don't, your editor or God forbid it gets to your readers and they're going to go, why didn't anybody use a cell phone? You know, so you have to learn to use the technology in your story.
You have to have hindsight before you write it. Yeah.
Yeah. Your characters have to get smarter, both your villains and your heroes. If you're going to commit a crime, the criminal in your story has to, unless you want them to be dumb, because sometimes you can write a crime and go, I don't know how to catch them. And so you have to make your character do something stupid
to catch them.
Or that leads to their downfall, because, you know, which can be character-based hubris. Or, you know, hi Derek, and then
13 years of listening.
Nice. So how long have you guys been doing it? Has it been 13 or more?
It was 14 years old. I've been on the show 10 years. Jeff's been on the whole time.
Nice. 13 years of listening to Bobby or us?
Hopefully us. I'm hoping us. No offense, Bobby.
It's okay. Yeah. Well, I used to co-host a podcast, and that was probably 13 years ago. I did it for like 10 years. So yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, could be. But that was
us. Thank you for listening. If it's Bobby, thank you for listening. I think it's us.
It's probably you. I'm assuming it's you.
Yeah. God bless you, sir. This is probably going to be our last year because Trump will bought a gooch and Putin's going to drop a nuke. So we appreciate you.
We hope for the best. We hope for the best. So. But I still have stories to write. I don't want to go just yet.
We still got.
From what I see here, Bobby, you deserve full houses. So
thank you.
Now you have full houses.
I do love what I do. It is very fun. It is, you know, my commute is from my bedroom across the hall to my office, which is nice. I don't have to get up early in the morning and drive to a job I hate and do it all day long. So that is awesome. I love that. It's like any other creative business. I mean, you guys probably know that with the podcast and stuff. It's a feast or famine. It's you have your, oh my God, we're on top of the world. And the next month it's like, Nobody cares. You know, so but I love it. It's great. I get to sit and make up stuff all day long. I get to tell stories. I get to
You've
play with
actually
kids.
been making a living off of this only,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's pretty good. That's good.
And then it's not a great living, but it's it's a
And you
living.
do it. You do it.
And it's allowed me to travel. It's allowed me to play with, like I said, we talked about playing with characters I grew up with, which is awesome. It's allowed me to travel. It's allowed me to meet new people. Excuse me. It's allowed me
Get
to
some neat collectibles along the way.
Yeah. But I've met people between doing conventions and other events and doing podcasts and I meet so many people. I've gotten to know a lot of people. It's both readers, and I still find it hard to think I have fans of my work. That just in my head that
They're
still
up there.
seems wrong. So, but I have fans and I have readers and I have other creators and I have friends and I have just people I've met along the way, and a lot of those people I never would have met without doing this. I've had opportunities that I wouldn't have had if I didn't do this, which is awesome. And it's fun. Like I said, I get to make stuff up for a living. That's just the coolest job in the world. So yeah.
So what else you got cooking in there that you want to do in the future? What's some of your dream?
Well, there's this year, because of changes, there's been a lot of outside influence that has kind of curtailed parts of my business. Paper prices going up and Diamond going out of business and bankrupt has killed a couple of my projects because the publishers didn't get paid for the previous book to pay for the book they were going to pay me for. I lost, so work kind of took a hit this year. I am working, and last year, and I'm working on some new things that I'm going to try to do something different, just to kind of play and experiment a little. I'm not going to stop doing the stuff I do, like the snow and those. Those will still happen. The new Sheriff Myers novel is called Sweet Nothings. I'm going to release it as a serialized novel first on Patreon, where I'll do a chapter a week.
Oh,
that'll be my first draft. I do my first drafts that way. And then it'll go to edits, and then it'll come out in wide release later this year. So that happens. Actually, the first episode went this week on Monday. So the first chapter is out, and it is free to read. The rest of them, you'd have to be a patron, which is like $1 a month. Captain Science in Oz, the novella, will be out in February.
Like Oz as in Wizard of?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
I wrote this for another publisher. Captain Science is an old comic character, and who's in public domain. And the publisher had a list, and it's like, we're going to do some anthologies, pick a couple and pitch. And so I wrote, they wanted like 3 for short stories. And so I wrote 3, and the third one, because he also had like public domain locations. So you can, because the Oz books are public domain, not the movie. If it's just in the movie, you can't use it. But if it's in the book, you can use it. And so my third pitch was just Captain Science in Oz. That's all I wrote. And so he comes back and he goes, that's the one. I'm like, great. Short story? No problem. He goes, no. We're thinking novel.
Ongoing novel, yeah.
Well, just a standalone, but
Or standalone.
Yeah. Well, at least, so I went and I wrote the novel. Well, unfortunately, the publisher, before the book came out, has gone out of business. So the book came back to me. So I'm going to release it. I went and it had been written like 4 or 5 years ago. So I went and reread it and did some edits and adjustments and whatnot. And so the cover's being done now. Jazz Ingram is doing the cover. That will be out probably in February. So if it does well, we can revisit Captain Science. If not, it'll be a nice one-shot, fun sci-fi adventure dealing with Oz. So that was fun. So that'll be out. Kolchak Eras, as we mentioned, will be out the 27th of January. The Snow Island audiobook, which is narrated by Stuart Goffey, which is will be out January next week, the 17th. It'll be out next week. I forget the exact date, but it's sometime next week. So that'll be out. And that's the audio version of the latest novella. And then there's other stuff, scattered throughout the year. I've got a few short stories on deck. But I'm writing a couple of, because I don't have any big work for hire projects at the moment. I've got 3 novel ideas that I want to do that are different types of genres than I normally do. So I'm going to work on at least one of those and maybe shop it around.
But they're ideas for novels, not novel ideas.
Right. Ideas for novels. Hopefully they are novel ideas, but they're ideas. but yeah. And I have a thriller. I have a thriller novel that's in its like later drafts and edits, so that's we're finishing up. That'll come out this year too, but I don't. Yeah, and that one's called Nowhere to Run. That one's I have a U.S. Marshal character that's appeared, kind of like Sheriff Myers appeared in Evil Ways and Deadly Games, and then he later gets his own book. This is a character, William Teague, who's a U.S. Marshal, who appeared in a couple of other books as a secondary character, and now he's headlining this book, Nowhere to Run, and they've captured a hijacker, and the hijacker is being moved to the prison, and they stupidly put him on a plane. You put a guy who hijacks planes for a living on a plane, and you can guess what happens. And so now Teague has to go, and the plane goes down, and he has to go and find them and rescue his people and recapture the guy. And so that's been fun. It's a very actiony thriller. It's set. The plane goes down on top of on a mountain, so we have to get up the mountain and do stuff. And I love outdoor adventures and doing that. So that's fun. I had a blast with that. So that'll be out sometime this year. And then, like I said, there's always stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like you got a lot of pokers in the fire.
Yeah, and I have books that are, and there are always things that are done in the hands of the publishers when I just don't know when they're coming out. There are 3 different Domino Lady comic series that are written, but each are in various stages of art. So I don't know when they're coming out. I have a Green Hornet novel that's finished, has been done for about 2 years at the publisher. Wow. So I don't know when it's coming out. I'm hoping this year, but I don't know that. So there's things like that. So there are books, written that I just don't know when they're going to come out, because sometimes I'm the last to know.
I literally you're in limbo until they hit the market.
I literally one day had someone message me on social media and says, "Oh my God, I picked up your new book. It arrived today from Amazon.
What are you talking about? I don't have a new book out."
Yeah, and he just goes, "I'm starting it tonight. I've read the first chapter. It's awesome." And I'm like, "That book's out? Cool."
And good news.
Then I go to the publisher and I'm like, "Hey, why didn't you tell me the book was out? I could have, promoted it." And they're like, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah, oops.
So it happens.
We got about 10. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I am usually the last to know.
Well, we got about 10 minutes, and sometimes I like to ask my guests, well, most of the time, do you got any paranormal stuff in there that's happened to you personally, like encounters with UFO or ghost or anything paranormal ever? If not, it's okay, but if there is, tell us.
Not really. I mean, yeah, nothing I can think of. No, you have weird things that happen to you. I remember one time I had these vivid dreams when I was a kid. I used to suffer from night terrors, according to my parents. I slept through them, so I don't know. I'm taking them at their word. But when I was a kid, I used to have these very vivid dreams, and there was this one character who was evil character who was in my dreams constantly. I was terrified of this person. Not anybody I knew. Years later, I met the man. It was very weird. Who was the spitting image of this guy who had been in my dreams. I also used to dream of locations where things would happen. And there was one where if you went out of what was our backyard at the time, if at the back of our yard there was a little hill, and then it went down to the neighbor's garden. But we were never allowed to, stay on this side of the hill. In my dreams, if you went over that hill, there was a river and a park and just a very unique setting that was all just out of my imagination until years later when I ended up in that park. Those kind of things. I don't know if that counts, but those things were uniquely weird. Both of those have managed to make it into stories.
It counts.
So, and there was one other. I'll give you one other. It's a quick one. Me and two friends, we were on our way to a convention in North Carolina. And two of us were up front and one was in the back and he had just taken a nap. And so we stopped and we're like, he wakes up and he's like, I need a bathroom break. And so we're going. And so then there's an exit right there ahead. So we get off the exit and there's not much there. It's in the middle of nowhere. And we get off the exit and it's like, this is a very lightly used exit because like grass is growing through the concrete, the pavement. So we get up to the top. There's nothing on our side, but you take a left, you go across the bridge, and the only thing there is a gas station and a diner. And so my buddy gets out and he's like, I go to the bathroom. I said, well, I'll go too. My other friend's pumping the gas. So we go in and it's an old gas station convenience store. And we're like, bathroom? And through the diner. And we could hear all the diner sounds and various things. As soon as we crossed the threshold into the diner, dead silent, every person in there turned and stared at us all the way to the bathroom. We go into the bathrooms. We use the bathrooms. We come out. They stare at us all the way out. It was very creepy. And we get,
like this with their utensils,
Yeah, just stopped and just
wow, creepy.
And so we cross out of the threshold back into the convenience store and we can start hearing murmurs and whatnot again. And so just as we get through there, my buddy's paying for the gas and we're like, oh, how far is it to this town where we're going? And I never heard of it. I'm like, okay. So we get back in the car, we drive back. There's no on-ramp to get back on the expressway.
Oops. I hate that.
So we go across the bridge. We go down the ramp we went up and did a U-turn. Anyways, less than a mile away is the town we were going to that they had never heard of. And we're telling people this all weekend because it was really disturbing. And we're telling people about it all weekend. And there are people that live in it. And it's like, there is no exit less than a mile from here. And like, well, we know for a fact we got off the interstate. So after the weekend,
you just can't do it legally.
On our way home, we're like, we're going to stop and take photos. And we couldn't find the exit. We couldn't find the bridge. We couldn't find any of it. And it was just Twilight Zone-y type thing. Now, I will say this. The writer in me has mined all three of those things for stories. I have written parts of those into stories. Usually I make them worse than they were in truth, but yes. So if those count, yes, they were very weird. I don't know how supernatural any of them were, but they were weird.
All right, we got about 5 minutes. Got any links you want to give out?
Sure. BobbyNash.com is the website where, everything's there. I'm on all the social medias. There's links there. I do Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Blue Sky and Threads, and I've got Patreon, and I've got them all. I've got most of them. I don't have them all. I can. There's not enough hours in the day to do them all.
There is.
No, but I do. But I have those, and I do a lot of stuff there. And there's contacts you can get. You can find out where I'm going to be for events, what's coming, when it's out, links, and all that is. Yeah, BobbyNash.com will give you all of that. And then, but yeah, come say hi. I'm on all this. Like I said, I'm on most of the social media. Stop by, say hi, tell me where you heard me.
Were you born in Georgia?
I was. Yes, I live about 55 miles from where I was born. Yes,
Cool.
I am a rarity here in Georgia. Someone who lives here, who was born here,
born, bred, and raised.
Yes, it is. It is very unusual to find people that are like that. But yeah, we lived because I was born in Atlanta. I grew up in Doraville, and then we moved to Winder. And then after I got out on my own, I just stayed in Winder. But yeah, it's a nice little place. It's busier than it used to be. When we moved here, I was 12, and it was a tiny town in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, all farmland too.
Yeah, not so much anymore. But yeah, it's really grown up.
Grown a lot.
But yeah,
where I grew up was mostly farmland for the longest time. The last working farm finally, bought the farm, as it were, like 15, 20 years ago. And now I'm living an hour away from where I grew up in Pennsylvania now. And where I am in Pennsylvania, I am surrounded by Amish and Mennonite farms. Right down the road here is a guy that's got a young family. I mean, he's got a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and like a 4-year-old. And they all work the farm, and it's just amazing to see this one small family working these 3 or 4 huge fields. And I'm just like, I couldn't do it. I don't get me wrong. I like working. I like a hard day's work. I like being tired when I come home and wanting to sleep and eat, but that's too much. I couldn't handle that.
Yeah, we still have farmland here, and I've never worked a farm. I lived next to it when we first moved up here. The next door neighbors had a farm, and sometimes you would go down there and do things, but I never worked a farm.
Yeah, no, because they're up there. These guys are up at 4:30, 5. They're already out. When I go to work, I have to work at 6 o'clock where I work. I'm 6 a.m. They're already out there. They've been out there for 2 hours. I'm like, how the hell do you do that?
Yeah, they're getting up about the time
7 or 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
and then do the whole. It's just like it's unbelievable.
Yeah. They're getting up about the time I go to bed.
Right? Yeah.
Hoping to watch that new Star Trek, and the main reason Paul Giamatti is like a villain in it. I got to check that out.
I watched it. I enjoyed it. He chews a lot of scenery. He is very much
no spoilers. I started
spoilers.
to watch it, but I tried to watch it this afternoon, but because of the painkillers I'm on, I blanked out like half after. Yeah. But I saw the Paul Giamatti fight in the beginning. I was like, oh, that's Paul Giamatti. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
He chews a lot of scenery. He is a great over the top.
Yeah,
I love him. He's perfect for the Star Trek universe.
I also think he and Holly Hunter squaring off is really good. I mean, because they're both really good. I enjoyed the first episode. I enjoyed the second episode too, but I really enjoyed the pilot. I thought it was
haven't seen
good.
Holly Hunter in forever.
Yeah, she's really good. I never would have thought of her as a starship captain, but she sells it.
Well, I think she was up for the role for Janeway as well.
Yeah,
she did do a screen test for that. So this, I guess this is her.
Yeah, and I will say too, this is not a spoiler, but Robert Picardo is back as the Doctor in this.
I love him. He's so
cool. He is never not good. He is always fun to watch.
Oh, I love him. I'll tell you a funny story about him that you guys may not know. He's in the movie Legend with Tom Cruise. He isn't in it physically, because the character that he voices is a puppet, Meg, the swamp troll, which he's the voice.
Cool.
For Meg, the swamp troll witch in Legend.
Yeah, he's got quite the film history. He's
got quite the range. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I would agree.
But yeah, I find him just he's fascinating. And so
we've been watching the new Spartacus House of Asher. It's actually pretty good. There's some cheesy stuff in it that's actually good. But there's there's 4 seasons that came out a while back, and then they made a new one that just came out. And I forget, it's a pretty popular dude that made other stuff that's pretty good. But one of the scenes in one of the last episodes of Spartacus, there's these 3 dwarfs. I don't want to say the M word because I think they may use that word in there. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But they're 3 dwarfs, real dwarfs. And they're in the Gladiator as the 3 fighting together against other people, and they're kind of the villains. And I don't want to give too much away, but there's one part where this dude throws one on a spike on the wall, and it's the craziest thing.
I haven't seen that yet. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. There's
you have to see the old one first.
I watch way too much TV. I am enjoying with the streaming stuff. I am enjoying some stuff that probably like Shrinking with Harrison Ford is really good. Harrison Ford is quite funny in this. Him and Jason Segel, really good. That's on Apple Plus.
Oh yeah.
That's
The
really
guy
good.
Stephen S. DeKnight did.
Oh yeah, he did Daredevil, and he was on Angel. He co-created Angel.
Buffy.
Oh wow.
And he worked on Buffy, and I want to say he worked on Firefly, and yeah, he's
fantastic
good.
episodes.
Yeah, and then I'm also really enjoying The Pit on HBO Max. That the doctor, the emergency.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
there are times it's hard to watch because they're showing stuff, and
yeah,
but it's just fantastic the way they do it, because it's each episode is an hour in that day, so the whole season is one shift of 15 hours.
Check it out. Well, I gotta close out. But if you want some weird comedies on HBO, The Chair Company and it's Florida Man.
Yep.
Those are pretty good. Yeah. All right, everybody. You're listening to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. Eric Werner next week from Dark Moon Press. An old friend of mine that used to be on at the beginning of the Church of Mabus. He used to be the spokesman for that creepy Church of Satan with Aunt LaVey, but I don't think he is anymore. So that should be creepy. I always feel like Geraldo Rivera when I get one of them on. Like, but anyway, thanks so much, Bobby. That was a great show. You've surprised me many times with Kolchak and Creep Show, and that's
thanks
amazing.
for having me.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a blast.
And we loved it. And I'll send you the archive, and everybody check out Monstrous on Kickstarter. They got, Amazon right now, they got the Creep Show graphic novel, and they got the Kolchak eras, Night Stalker era, and then also Weird Tales. So gosh, he's nailing it. All right. Thanks everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Bobby. Y'all have a good week.